Today we're taking a look at these MLB matches, which are happening on Sunday, May 7, 2023, and giving you our team and total picks for today. Welcome back to High Stakes. Before we dive into our video, don't forget to subscribe and to push the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Also check out our Patreon if you want access to our premium picks. Our Patreon is a way for us to help you improve your chances of making more money, and if you are interested in props and parlay picks, check out our new channel High Stakes Props and Parlays, where you can find our player props and parlay picks predictions. You will find the link to our Patreon and to our new channel in the description and comments section below. Boston Celtics vs Philadelphia 76ers. The Boston Celtics lost Game 1 of this series, but battled back to win Games 2 and 3 to take the 2-1 lead in the series. Home court advantage has not played a big role in this series, as the road team has won 2 of the 3 games. In Game 3, all 5 starters reached double figures, and the 4-time All-Star Jason Tatum had 27 points, 10 rebounds and 5 assists in the game. The Philadelphia 76ers won Game 1 on the road without the league MVP Joel Embiid. Since his return they have lost back-to-back games and now trail in the series. Embiid had his best game of the playoffs in Game 3, with 30 points and 13 rebounds, but he has not scored over his season average of 33.1 in any game this postseason. The Celtics have considerably slowed down James Harden after his huge Game 1 performance. In the last 2 games, Harden is shooting a combined 5-28 in losing efforts. Boston's defense has also limited the impacts of Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. Harris only scored 7 points in Game 3. Embiid does not look like himself this postseason, and his sprained knee may not be fully healed yet based on how he is playing. Embiid has yet to score over his season average this postseason, and Boston's elite defense has caused Embiid and Sixers headaches. Tatum and Brown are both averaging over 25 this postseason, as it is incredibly rare for both of them to not play well. Boston will take control of the second-round series and take a 3-1 lead in Philly. Take the Celtics to win and cover. 2 of the 3 games in this series have gone over the total, and Game 4 will as well. The Celtics have been scoring well this postseason and have scored 114 or more in every game this series. Boston had 6 players reach double figures in Game 3 and had no problem lighting up Philadelphia's defense. The 76ers are unlikely to have their top 4 scorers all score below their season averages again as they did in Game 3. Philadelphia will make adjustments to find easier shots for Harden and Harris to get the struggling players back on track. Every day that goes by is another day for Embiid's knee to heal and get stronger, so he may have another big game here. This game will go over the total. Take the over 214.5 points. Denver Nuggets vs Phoenix Suns. It's not like the Denver Nuggets played poorly in the Game 3 loss, it was actually far from it. Nikola Jokic had a 30-17-17 triple-double, Jamal Murray finished with 32 points, and the Nuggets even got 21 points from Michael Porter Jr. Denver's own concerns about depth didn't to be a huge hindrance, even though their 2 superstars had phenomenal nights as well. Denver played well enough for Phoenix to have to need basically every one of those 86 points from Booker and Durant, and Booker put up 47 points, only going 2 for 2 from the free throw line. The Nuggets were playing defense without getting fouls called, got strong scoring nights from their 2 main guys, but just got beat. It happens. If Porter Jr. continues to produce and can be relied upon for 15+ points a game, his points prop for Games 1 and 2 was 16.5 and it dropped to 14.5 for Game 3, and Aaron Gordon can be more efficient than the 3 for 13 he was from the field in Game 3, and this Nuggets team will be just fine. Denver is still 18-12 at TS this year when coming off a loss and owns an average margin of victory of +4 points in those games. Slowing down Booker and Durant is a lot easier said than done, but that's got to be the goal for them going forward. Keep those 2 to 35 points or less, and the Nuggets will gladly take their chances from there. As spectacular as the effort was from the 2 Phoenix superstars, Booker in particular, the fact remains that those 2 accounted for 71% of the Suns' scoring in Game 3. Not one other Suns player scored more than 7 points in the win, and while 9 of the 10 guys who saw the floor did end up scoring, how sustainable is this for Phoenix? I mean, the 86 points that Booker and Durant combined for in Game 3 was 1 fewer than the 87 points the entire team scored in Game 2 when the 2 stars weren't on fire. That's the biggest takeaway from Game 3 for me, as Phoenix needed every bit of those spectacular performances from Booker and Durant just to win the game. Sure, Jokic put up some monster numbers as well, and you can't count on that continually happening, but where do the Suns land when their 2 stars aren't scorching hot shooting the basketball? Now that the desperate spot of being at home for Game 3 down 0-2 in the series is behind Phoenix, I'm not sure how you can consider laying points with this team. Game 3 could have easily looked like Game 1 for the Suns had Booker and Durant combined for just 56 points like they did in the series opener. And 27 and 29 points respectively on 10 for 19 and 12 for 19 shooting. Booker and Durant stat lines for Game 1 is always going to be considered as a strong night. Booker and Durant having just strong nights aren't going to cut it long-term for the Suns, as Game 3 showed they need to be spectacular and combine for 75 plus just to legitimately have a chance to win. Those two guys are definitely capable of pulling it off 3 more times in this series against this Nuggets defense that is just a league average unit, ranked T13th in defensive efficiency, but am I interested in betting that will happen? Not a chance. Denver's own secondary help is less of a worry after what I saw in Game 3, as Gordon was at least willing to shoot the basketball, 13 shot attempts when looks came his way, and Michael Porter Jr. was the same way. As long as those two guys, among others, stay aggressive, they'll win the production battle between themselves and the Suns supporting cast. I already touched on the Nuggets' strong 18-12 at TS record off a loss this year, and with the spot nearly as good for Phoenix as it was in Game 3, I'll grab the points with the number 1 seed in the West. Our team pick is Denver plus 3.5 points. The Nuggets looked dominant through the first 2 games of the series and even throughout much of Game 3 on Friday. A lackluster second half finally caught up with them, but there's no doubt that they feel like they can get back in the win column on Sunday. The road hasn't been the kindest to them this season though, as they have a losing record overall away from home, including 3 losses across 3 games in Phoenix. With depth being a key for them throughout much of the playoffs so far, there's little doubt that could play a massive role in how this one goes. A win set things up nicely for Denver to win the series, though a loss would quickly see their confidence and momentum shaken. After a pair of games in Denver that resulted in lopsided scorelines, the Suns are clearly thrilled to be back at home. Friday saw the fans push them toward the finish line, and while they still have quite a bit of work to do on Sunday, they can sense how close they are to flipping this series on its head. Phoenix was dominant at the Footprint Center this year, sporting a 31-14 record. Adding in the road woes of their opponent, momentum could definitely be shifting back in the direction of the lower seed as tip-off on Sunday quickly approaches. The lack of depth and balanced scoring is a major concern, but if their superstars continue to play at a superstar level, this series could be heading back to Denver at 2-2. Game 3 was a scenario where I believe Durant and Booker were going to fire up shots at will with their backs against the wall in a desperate attempt to avoid going down 0-3. Well, 86 points on 56 shots between the two of them was how Game 3 actually played out, and I would expect at least some of the same from the duo in Game 4. Yet, I don't believe there will be the same success rate in the shots falling for those two, as the 51% shooting as a team Phoenix had in Game 3 is something I'm willing to bet is more of a high watermark for the Suns in this series. The Suns shot 51% from the floor in the Game 1 loss and followed that up with 87 points 2 days later. So here we are again, 2 days later for Game 4, after the Suns shot 51% as a team and their 2 stars scored 71% of their points. Deja vu? I don't think we see the same offensive utility that Game 2 brought in this series, but in under the total result should be the same. At some point the legs on Durant and Booker are going to fatigue under all this pressure they are under, and that's going to hurt 2 jump shooters most on the offensive end. Denver could also employ the idea of slowing the game down, so that less possessions overall means less possessions they've got to try and stop those 2, and the Nuggets will take their chances with whatever comes next. All of that is helpful to an under ticket cashing, as is the idea that this Game 4 is a huge swing game in the series. Either we see this series knotted up at 2 games apiece, or number 1 seed Denver heads home up 3-1. The stakes are quite high, and when push comes to shove, most guys on the floor are more willing to bank on their ability to hinder their opponent's shot-making abilities as opposed to knocking down the shots themselves. After all these guys on both sides that struggle to score 10+ points a game aren't just out there to make sure there are 5 guys on the floor. They can play a little defense as well, and I believe it will be the defense on both sides that keeps this total from ever really being threatened. Our total pick is under 227.5 points.